This episode is the first of the new year, and it just so happens the first day of the year falls on a Sunday. To kick off the year, I'm going to make a bucket list for 2023. I'll be using the Lavender Artist of Life workbook for this activity as it has a built-in bucket list. I started out by taking a look at my 2020 and 2021 lists and adding in the ones I didn't complete that I still wanted to do. Most of the 52-week activity challenge series for 2021 was made up of the 2020 bucket list and then padded out with ideas I got from Pinterest activity idea lists, and so many of these have since been done through season 1 and 2 of this series. Looking at how much I wanted to do in 2020, it made me sad that there's so many things in the list I'm no longer capable of doing due to health issues that hadn't arisen yet at the time I made the list. Like indoor rock climbing with my arm pain. That's not happening. It cuts out a lot of things that would have been fun to do, unfortunately. Some of them I definitely have no desire to do now, though. Play a sport? Really? 2020 Mackenzie was bold. I couldn't be bothered now. Weekly yoga for 1 month, are you joking? I did do that one. Improve typing skills. At the picnic, I did that. Try photography, I did that. Some Rubik's Cube, I did that. Horseback riding. No, it's not happening. After that, I took to Pinterest for more ideas to fill out the list a bit more, and also included a few things I thought of myself that I plan to do already this year. I recognize that some of these are nearly impossible to complete by the end of this year, but I included a few long-term ones too because I figured it couldn't hurt to fill the list out a bit more, and the ones I don't complete, whether easy to do in the next 365 days or not, will be moved over to next year's list anyway. I didn't think I'd even make it to 50 things, so I was really satisfied with making it to 80. I tried not to use my goals for this year as bucket list items as I felt like that was sort of cheating, but I filled the final spot with my ultimate goal for the year. He's gonna shit himself, thinking we're going for a run, but we're not.
Okay, Boober. We're gonna make a snow lining. Okay. Ready? No. I'm not going anywhere. Holy shit, this is perfect. Yeah, you eat it. I'll do this. I need my gloves.
careful, don't knock him over. We're almost done, Bella.
Just have to finish the ears before I do the short. So then I can see what your ears look like. We're almost done, Snowman. You just need a little bit more. What do you think? Looks pretty good, Boo. Hey, Boo, come here first. Come here. No, chill. Come here. Okay, turn around. This way. That's it. Good boy. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. That's a good boy. Okay. Can you stay for a sec? Sit. Sit. Stay. 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 Good boy. Well, that's enough of that. My hands are cold. I'm cold. Ready to go in, Boo? Come on, let's go inside. You're gonna stay out here? Come on. Time for breakfast. Come on. Note to self, that took an hour and a half of my time. Hey there. So for today's activity, feeling a little nostalgic lately. I wanted to go through some of my old photo albums just for fun, just because I rarely ever look at them. We have them, they're available, but I don't look at them very often. My mom packed away a lot of our baby photo books. It has so many photos in them. I think the last time I went through them was the summer of last year. And I just thought, it might be fun just to sit down and kind of explore through them again. But they're not available. And a lot of the photo albums that my grandmother made me growing up, I gave a lot of them to her recently. She wanted them just to, I guess, to look through them. And I kind of feel bad because I wish I would have remembered. I wanted to go through some photo albums for an activity because then I would have maybe at least kept a few. I gave her like 6. But anyway, so we're working with what I do have available, which is very little. I have these 2 photo books from when I was a kid, and then I have one of my most prized possessions, this book that my grandmother made me of photos from when I was a kid and seeing my life through her eyes. I won't share all of that because there's a lot of very personal entries and things, but I haven't gone through it since I first looked at it, Christmas 2021, that I received this, and it made me bawl my eyes out. I cried so hard. But then I put it away for safekeeping, and I haven't looked at it, so that's what we're going to be doing today, just kind of going through old photos and just taking a walk down memory lane. I think this was the year my brothers, yeah, it's the year that they got water guns. I had a friend that was over to celebrate my birthday. She lived in the same co-op that we lived in, and she ditched me to go hang out with my step-sibling, who also got a water gun. I didn't get one. She got one because her birthday was the week before ours, so some of her family members brought her some gifts. So she got a water gun, the boys both got water guns, and then she invited my friend to come and and play water guns with them. We were in the middle of playing with my new Polly Pocket set, and she fucking was like, oh yeah, okay, and left me there. I spent my birthday crying by myself in my room. It's kind of funny though, when I think about my birthdays, that's what I think about. It's mostly the negative stuff. Growing up, I didn't have any family videos. Having a video camera was not common. Like, most people did not have something they could film video with. It's crazy to think I'm that old now, but that's the way that it was. Technology really got so much better and so much more accessible so quickly in my early years. So by the time I was a teen, you know, people had cell phones that they could film videos with. What is that facial expression? But before that, when I was young, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, that wasn't a thing. Like, my parents had flip phones until like 2013 or something. They kind of jumped on the smartphone thing really late. So like, even my parents didn't have anything to film with. I don't remember a single one of these kids, but I hope they're all doing well. Well, I know two of them, they're my brothers. But they're the only ones I know. I went to visit Santa. My nanny got pictures of kids she didn't even know. Oh, there I am. She really could have just cut this down to just the three of us, the pictures of us. I don't know why we have random kids in here. So like, my younger sibling has all these family videos that they can watch and experience what they were like and what those moments were like in real time, but I don't have that. So the reason I'm explaining all this, because I know we're looking through photo albums today, but the reason I'm talking about this is because photo albums have been all I have. I spent a lot of time reading as a kid. I don't do that as much these days. The extensive amount of photos my nanny used to take of us as kids, constantly clicking away with that camera of hers. It's not video footage, it's not quite the same, but it's something. Still have them. I love looking through them and getting those moments where I can be like, oh, I remember that. Like, I completely forgot I got my boating license at like 10 years old. Like, I literally had no memory of having done that. And then my grandmother reminded me, because I think I told her I'd never been on a boat before. I think it was something, I made a statement like that, and she was like, yes, you have, like multiple times. And then she was like, you got your boating license when you were like 10. No memory of that. This is where, when I learned how to do a boat, that's where I learned how to drive a boat. My brain's not working today. But it wasn't until I went through the photo albums. As we were on the phone, I was flipping through from when we went to Quebec when I was around 10 years old, and sure enough, I was indeed on a boat. And it was looking at those photos, it kind of jogged my memory almost. It's weird because I don't know if I'm creating a memory that didn't actually exist. Like, my brain is creating a visual image of it that isn't accurate, or if it is pulling memories from that day that I'm now seeing in my head and I'm like, oh yes, I do remember doing that. I couldn't tell you because the brain is weird like that, and memories are notoriously unreliable. That bed was so cool. I just remember it being a lot bigger than it was. But it's interesting because when you go through photo albums and things, you catch things you just totally didn't realize, or things you forgot about, or things you had no idea happened because it's so far back. You would have no way of remembering them, like when you were a little baby and things. It's so special to be able to do that. So I protect these photos with my life because they're all I have to connecting me to the younger versions of myself that I can no longer remember, or the people that are no longer in my life that I'm afraid I'm gonna forget. Sometimes it's just hard to look through photos and realize how much has changed. It's the downside to looking at them. Sometimes I just get sad. Oh yeah, I was Barney's biggest fan as a kid. My Halloween outfits were so basic. I was not creative. I see the things that kids do these days for Halloween and I'm just like, wow. I wonder if it's more though that rather than that as a kid I wasn't creative, my mom just didn't care enough about Halloween. I think my generation raising kids are being more enthusiastic about Halloween than our parents were. I don't know. I love looking through photo albums. I love sharing those moments with family. And then it gets people talking like, oh, you remember when we did this? Or, oh yeah, we always used to do that. Or it's great. Anyway, I'll end this here and I will see you next week. Hey there. So for today's video, as you can see, we're going to be doing some painting. I have my easel out today, which is something I haven't used in like 2 years. May 2021. So almost 2 years. I didn't think it'd been that long. But apparently it has been. So it has some signs of not being used in the form of lots of spider webs. Nasty. Anyway, so for today's activity, I'm going to be following a Bob Ross tutorial, which is something I've never done before. I've always been aware of him and of his videos and what he does, or did, I guess, what he did. But I've never actually followed a tutorial, so that's what we'll be doing today. I do want to start off by just quickly pointing out that Bob Ross uses oil paints, which is completely different than acrylics. I mean, they're both paint, but with oil paints, you can leave them for a while, like they don't really dry. Acrylic dries really quickly. It's, it's easy to use, but it's not something that you can continuously come back to. Once it's been sitting on that canvas for like 5 minutes, you really can't touch it after that. Oh, my blues are drying out. Yeah, all my paints are drying. I hate it when that happens. I also don't have titanium white, which he always starts out with. And again, that creates like a wetness on the canvas so that all of that can go on really smooth and easy and you can create those gradients. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure something out. I wonder if I can recreate that with just wet white.
The touch of them isn't crazy. We'll just load a little bit right into the bristle.
Hold on, Bob. Just gonna... I would have put them all on the palette, like he has them already ready to go, but again, it would dry before I even got a chance. They take a long time to dry, so you can constantly be moving them, just within reason, but they're malleable. You can move it around, you can change it. It definitely does not work as smoothly. The other thing with acrylic, because you just really can't go over it too much, or it just becomes a mess. It starts lifting really weird. Oil paints don't lend well to the kind of work that I do and the way that I do it. I tend to lean more towards realism. So I do a lot of like little details, and you can do that with oil. A lot of the old masters used to use oil paints, so it's not that you can't. It would just take 10 times longer to do the pieces that I do in oil rather than acrylic. See how it's starting to pick up paint.
Oh my God. There.
I don't have to do. I don't have all day. I'm trying to do this in less than an hour. All my paints are so dry. What is happening here? Like, you don't use them in like 2 months. Wait, look at it.
Kind of makes sense.
Brush.
I've never used a fan brush
Both
before.
sides. Just drop them out. You don't know where they go. See the detail to the foreground. The last in that same color.
How did he get...
Brush touch.
His fan brush must be different than mine. Mine is clumping together.
They're slightly.
This doesn't work with acrylic. Can confirm.
You can go right up in here.
Oh shit.
You can just drop it.
Hmm.
Don't know that we even care. Just let us start painting and have nothing in mind. Don't worry about it. You don't always have to issue.
How the hell am I supposed to do that when I don't have a slicey thing? Like this one is thick with paint and crap.
Nothing in mind but the time of day and the time of year. And from that, you can paint something.
Bob, it's not working.
Or like it must be, but the more you practice, the better it becomes. Take some black brush and blue. We'll put some phthalo green in there. I like phthalo green and the blue crimson. There we go.
Yeah, I never want to do that again.
All right.
So what did he make those out of?
I like
Black, blue, green,
crimson.
red. So I was filming for like 15 minutes or something, and I didn't realize that I got a storage full error thing, and you totally missed a lot. Mostly just me getting angry and frustrated. And so I'm gonna just have to take some time to take footage off of my phone and onto my laptop so I can sort of free up some space on here. I definitely thought I had more space, but apparently I don't. So we're gonna pick it up for tomorrow, but I will show you what it currently looks like so you know kind of what you missed. Mostly just doing the trees and me getting absolutely infuriated with my fan brush that does not fan. It's crap. So yeah, so I will see you tomorrow and hopefully we can...
Just take this brush and let's just pop in.
Is he using the fan brush again? Ugh, yeah.
Those little foots. Pop up. There's no big mistakes here. We have happy accidents.
I don't know about that. Acrylic is just very different. A lot of what Bob Ross does is, his work is detailed, but it's more like the details are jotted in a way that, you know, they're not... I don't know how to explain this. I feel like you'd have to like actually just watch one of his videos to see what I mean. Ugh. Another tree? He really just jots things in, and his style works well for oil because, I mean, depending on how detailed it is, it'll take you maybe like 30-40 minutes to do one of his paintings the way that he does it, and then you just leave it to dry and it's done. It's a finished piece. Oh, I should have used this one from the beginning.
Let's get crazy.
We're adding an... Come on. I know you like trees, Bob, but jeez. Oh, his is a lot thinner.
This is a monster tree.
Yeah, mine's a real monster. What? Whereas like a lot of what I normally do would then take days because I'd have to wait for that layer to dry before I can add on the next layer of smaller details, etc, etc. Problem is that because everything underneath stays wet, it makes it easier for him to make like gradients and have things blend into what he's already created, whereas with acrylics I'm likely not going to be able to do that as smoothly. I'm gonna have to probably do more work to make this work better. Details are my best friend. They're what I'm good at. Oil paints also, I feel like they're very, very thick and opaque. I've never worked with them, so I can't say, but definitely his look very opaque. Whereas mine, well, even the darker colors are much thinner. So they do like take quite a bit to build up sometimes, depending on what I'm doing. Yeah, I can't do that with acrylic girls. It's partially why I'm happy that I didn't have any other canvases except for this tiny one, because I'm gonna have a lot less to cover. That'll make things a little bit easier. Okay, I need a marker. Oh, and there's a hair stuck. It's probably the worst signature I've ever done, but that's fine. Ta-da! As you can see, the color gradient of the sky, you can see all like those little like dots where the paint didn't really cover the canvas basically. With acrylic, because it's a lot thinner and a lot less opaque, it does need multiple coats. Like for Bob Ross, he just did one coat of the gradient and that was fine, but with acrylics I would have needed to do at least 2 to have that covered and look opaque. And that also happened with other things like the water, the background stuff going on back there, and even the trees and stuff. You can see, especially at the bottom along here, there's just a lot of like blank, tiny little blank bits. But the thing with oil paints, I guess, is especially in Bob Ross's case, you could see that he was only doing things once for the most part. He wasn't really having to go back in as much to create that opacity and make sure that the canvas was completely covered. And so I did it the way he was doing it. I followed the tutorial for the most part, except for having to use slightly different brushes sometimes and to keep up with it as he was going, so I wasn't going back and doing more layers like I normally would with acrylic, because otherwise this video would have taken a lot longer to film. I mean, for a first go at a Bob Ross tutorial, this wasn't too bad. This isn't the worst thing I've ever painted in my life, but it's definitely giving grade 10 art class. When I did my first ever landscape painting, I actually still have that. If I can pull it out of my closet, I'll show you. But that's like in terms of the level of detail and the skill, that this is exactly what it reminds me of, is that sort of look to it that my paintings used to have when I was a lot less skilled. Okay, wait, maybe I'm wrong. This is definitely worse than this. Yeah. Look at this tree here. No, that really is bad. Never mind, I take back what I said. It's funny though that I remembered my art skills looking more like this when the reality was actually like that. So this isn't the best, this isn't a great example at all of my skill level, but I think if I had oils and if I had more time and could kind of go off a little bit and do some things that are, even if I was continuing to use acrylics, that make acrylics work better, this would have turned out a lot better. But I think if you've seen any of my other work here on my YouTube channel, that goes without saying. So that's it for today's activity, and I will see you next week. Hey there. If you've been keeping up with this series, or if you've watched previous episodes, you probably know that season 1 ended pretty abruptly. When Shorty died, I just couldn't continue the series. I was way too depressed and stuck in my grief for that. There were a few activities that I was like in the process of filming at the time that she passed that I was close to being done with, or at least were a work in progress, that ended up not getting done, obviously, because episode 8 never came out. I didn't have enough filmed for that. It would have been like a half episode. So I took those 2 activities and I set them aside with the intention of circling back around to them for this season. So that's one of the activities we're doing today. I had been in the process of learning how to juggle. I didn't get very far. I got to like the part where I was able to juggle 2 balls somewhat comfortably, not even really juggling them, but just tossing them back and forth. We had a lot of fun, or at least I did, trying to learn something new. A lot of these activities are more like stupid activities, like where I have to make things. They're very crafty, they're very artsy most of the time. This was something that was really not within my skill range or something that I would normally be doing. So it was sort of fun. It was new, it was different. Obviously when Shorty passed, I didn't really feel like juggling. I stopped doing that. So back in January, I started learning how to juggle again, and starting from where I left off, because really it was sort of like riding a bike where you don't really forget how to do that basic movement of tossing the balls and then catching them. I wanted to practice enough that eventually I could somewhat juggle for the sake of at least showing my progress. Usually I don't want to spend more than a whole week, maybe 2 weeks max, working on something. There's very few activities that took me more than a couple of hours to do. So the ones that took longer were just, yeah, it was usually just me underestimating how long they would take. But juggling especially, I really didn't realize how much practice was going to be needed to master it. Learning how to do it is different. Understanding how juggling works, that's the easy part, but actually getting into a position where you can do that really well without having to like really think about it, or you can get your arms to move that way, it's another story. This could potentially take months to really master, even if I'm doing it every day, and I don't have that kind of time. I'm way too busy, I have way too much on my plate, and this particular activity not being complete is holding back the rest of the series, because if I can't upload episode 10, I can't upload episode 11 or episode 12, and I really want this series to be done by May so that I can move on to all the other projects I'm working on. At the moment, I'm currently editing 4 different video projects, filming for 3 or 4 very large projects. I have so many video projects on the backlog that I haven't begun editing yet, or that I started editing but didn't finish because I had so much else I was doing that needed to be done sooner. I have a new block collection that I'm working on, I have a personal art project that I'm working on, and I have language studies. I'm taking a Japanese language course that I paid an insane amount of money for. So I have so much on my plate, and that's just the things I can think of off the top of my head at the moment. I'm going to be moving soon. I'm actually going to be preparing for that today. I'm going to be packing even more of my things today. There's just so many big things happening, and there's so many things I'm working on, and so much I have to get done, that this particular activity just isn't a priority amongst all of that. And the amount of time it would take me to get to a point where I could like successfully show myself juggling in the end is just gonna take too much time. I did practice a lot over the last few months. It just is very slow going. Like I said, this is a process that takes longer than I anticipated, and that means that I'm gonna have to drop it. And it sort of sucks, because I think this might be the first activity that I haven't completed. But I'm okay with that. I think it was still kind of fun to sort of learn as far as I did and to practice and things. I might continue to practice in my own time, and maybe eventually I will be able to show you guys my juggling ability if I ever get better enough at it, but that's just not going to happen in this video. However, on the bright side, if you speed up the footage of me juggling, it looks like I'm juggling, and it looks like I'm juggling really quickly, so there's that. But anyway, that's it for this episode, and I will see you in episode 11.
And that's it for this episode. If you're enjoying this series and would like to keep up with me and my shenanigans, both with this vlog series as well as other content I create, feel free to subscribe. If you've missed other episodes in the series and would like to watch more, I have a playlist set up for easy watching. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.